Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. The NFL season kicks off tonight, Tony. Do you have football fever?
Tony Kornheiser, maybe. That would explain the groin itch. Football fever. I'm happy,
You have just
Mike.
had one
I'm happy for
disturbing
football.
reference after another. Me too. I'm more excited about
We've waited
Sunday
a
than I
long
am
time.
about tonight.
Well, I understand because you've got a horse in the race on Sunday. You've got a quarterback in the Bears. But I'm excited
My
for all of
quarterback.
it. It's a better world when football's in it. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Cubs throw a no-hitter. Jessica Pegula beats number one, and your White Sox finally win again. But we begin today with one half of tonight's NFL opener, the Kansas City Chiefs. They are seeking to become the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Nope. The Steelers, the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Patriots, they didn't do it. The Chiefs can. Well, about how big a deal would a three-peat be for the Chiefs, Mahomes, Reed?
Well, I'll get to that in a second, Tony. I'm just going to, of course, what you read was completely accurate. But I'm going to mention that the Green Bay Packers won 3 NFL championships in a row in the 60s. Two of those were Super Bowls. One was an NFL championship. They did it in the 20s as well, but the 60s is what we really count. Tony, being enormous. Look, I am not one. I can count. I know the difference between 3 and 7, and whatever it is Belichick and Brady's got is more than twice than 3. So even 3 in a row, and it would be 4 overall. But so I'm not going to say that's going to make, them the GOAT in their categories, whether it's Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes or anybody else. I'm not going to say that's going to make them the GOAT. But what it does, and the legacy is the most overused word now in sports because people don't even know what it means. They just don't. They don't know the difference between resume and legacy. And yes, it would enhance immediately resume. It pushes you out there in the outer limits past everybody. And yes, legacy, because you're going to get to it at some point. So, wow, it's unthinkable to me, Tony, because nobody's done it. And I can't wait to see the pursuit of it. I, like you, am excited because of it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we have to stress that in the Super Bowl era, nobody has ever done this. And we reference some of the great dynasties that were not able to do this. So if the Chiefs are to do it, it would set them apart from other teams. I, like you, look at other things here. Patrick Mahomes is already in the mix for the greatest quarterback ever, but Tom Brady won 7 of these things and went to 10. So winning 3 in a row does not put him over Tom Brady. It gives him 4 wins and 5 appearances. And I don't care how many Super Bowls Andy Reid wins until he gets to 7, which gets him ahead of Belichick. I mean, that's the number that's important. But I don't want to get too bogged down in numbers because I believe that it would be a tremendous achievement. Me personally, I would take the under on it. I don't actually think they're going to do it. That's just me personally.
I don't either. No, Tony, I'm with you. And we've seen a couple of teams, think they could do it. Of course, the Patriots were so great. I'm sure they thought they could. The Dolphins, Don Shula's Dolphins, they won back-to-back, and they looked like they had a sort of greatness in them, and they did. That would allow for it, but it did not. I mean, injuries come for you. Other teams come for you. The Houston Texans, I could see coming for them. The Baltimore Ravens, who we'll get to more in a second, I could see coming for them. I just think it's going to be too difficult not even get to the other conference yet for a Super Bowl matchup. So I'll take the under as well. I'm with you.
When I look at the Chiefs, I first see Mahomes and Kelsey. That's the first things I see. But I don't know that they're Montana and Rice. I don't know that there's a steel curtain defense on this team. There certainly isn't the longevity, obviously, of the Patriots, who I believe went to 9 in 17 years, and Brady was part of all of them. But if they win 3 in a row, I think you could arguably say they're the greatest collection in Super Bowl history. And I think one thing we have to do is draw the blinds on your dynasty of 1. I mean, that backhand slap at the Chiefs for 4 years.
I did that a while ago. You're living in the past. You're living in the past.
I love
That's been gotten rid of. That's dead and buried.
My whole life is in the past.
And you know what? When I called them a dynasty of 1, how many had they won?
1.
So that's that's then. This is now, and they're going for history. And it's going to be very cool to watch starting in a couple of hours. The Ravens, previously mentioned, also have high hopes this season. Last year's squad finished the regular season 13-4, But Baltimore's offense went dormant in the AFC Championship, loss to the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson won his second MVP last season, and while he's been 58-19 in the regular season, he's just 2-4 in the playoffs. Playoffs? So, Tony, what's on the line for Lamar Jackson? What's on the line for the Ravens starting tonight?
So I am tempted to say that it's Super Bowl or bust for the Ravens, particularly with Derrick Henry on the team. And I'm tempted to say that this is a referendum on Lamar Jackson, who can win all the MVPs he wants, but if he doesn't win in the playoffs, it really doesn't matter. But, I don't want to go there because I'm really old. And I've watched a lot of seasons come and go, and a lot of quarterbacks who we thought were going to win something, or basketball players or baseball players we thought were going to win, and they don't win. And you know what? There's always a next season. It's amazing, isn't it, Mike, that you and I don't work at the Washington Post anymore, and yet the paper still comes out. I don't know how that's possible, but it still happens. So I would point out, Lamar Jackson is 27 years old. That's all he is. He's got 6 or 8 or 10 more years. You'll remember that Phil Mickelson was almost 34 years old when he won his first major. He'd been winning tournaments for 12, 13 years at that point, maybe more than that. But people looked at Tiger and they looked at Phil and they said, oh, Phil can't win. Well, Phil ended up winning 5 majors. And the last one he won, he was 50 years old. He's the oldest one to ever win a major. So, Lamar Jackson, he's going to be playing for a while. And you have to think that, that it's too early, as we say, to draw the blinds on his career. We don't want to do it.
I'm not even thinking about it. And that's what people get crazy with the word legacy. There's 2 names that I care about. And I don't even have to go to golf, and I completely agree and honor your Phil Mickelson comparison. John Elway and Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning and John Elway. I got tired of hearing when Peyton was like 25, can he ever win the big one? Stop. And John Elway was, 37, I think? And he won 2 of them, either 37 and 38 or 38 and 39. So, Lamar Jackson does have time. But, Tony, with Derrick Henry out there, look, tonight is a referendum on nothing. You're gonna decide what you decide with these 2 teams in late January. But, man, if Derrick Henry's out there and healthy with Lamar Jackson, and if that offensive staff can't figure out a way under Coach Harbaugh to do whatever they have to do with Derrick Henry, you got the personnel. I don't want to hear about your scheme. I don't want to hear about your philosophy. When you got those 2 guys, if you have to go to battering ram football, then damn it, do it. Because Lamar Jackson, those guys are loaded right now. Do it.
Lamar Jackson has a terrible playoff record. He's 2-4. He's 1-3 at home, and he's got 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's an indefensible playoff record, and yet we watch him and we think there is something real there, and when is it going to happen? Let's move to baseball, where your Cubs had a combined no-hitter last night. The first no-hitter thrown in Wrigley Field since 1972, and that's 52 years if you're counting. The Cubs got 7 innings from Shota Imanaga, who didn't even know he hadn't given up a hit. And then the Cubs got an inning each out of Nate Pearson and Porter Hodge. Wilbon, you're a Cubs fan, but you hate relievers in this circumstance. So do you consider this to be a true no-hitter?
No, and it had nothing to do with the relievers. It had to do with something that was called an error early in the game, very early in the game, and it was a hit. It's a ground ball to the third baseman who short hops the throw to first. And you can't presume that was going to be an out. That was not just some simple unforced error. It was initially scored a base hit, and it should have been a base hit, not E5. Sorry, love it. Tony, I remember. Now, I didn't look this up, but it was either Bert Hooton or Milt Pappas that threw that no-hitter, and I watched both those games when I was – it was Pappas, which should have been a perfect game that I remember, and I was probably 13. But anyway, I digress. No, it's fine. The Cubs have won. They were 8-1 on the road. They dropped a couple to Pittsburgh that angered me because they were getting back in the wild card hunt. This was a nicely pitched game. Imanaga, the Cubs are like 16-4 or something like that in his starts. So he's done very well. But no hitter, no, it wasn't that. It was a single, let's be fair.
So I watched the replay of that play 3 times this morning.
What did you think?
And I didn't think it was E5, but I thought it was E3. I thought it was E3. I thought the hop was there. That's what I thought, E3 on that. But anyway, let me get back to this, because I do think it is a true no-hitter, because I look at the scoreboard and there are no hits at the end of the game. And I don't want to diminish it, but I do think it is less lustrous, is the word I want to use, less lustrous than a no-hitter pitched by one person. We have had 3 no-hitters this year prior to this, okay, all by one guy. Ronel Blanco of the Astros had one. Dylan Cease of the Padres, and he no-hit my Nats. And Blake Snell of the Giants. And Blake Snell's was the most interesting, because after the game, he railed against people who said, you didn't think I could throw 9 innings. Well, that's because you never did. In your whole career, you never did. Right. So I do think this is a no-hitter, but I also think this, Mike, if you had gone to the game and you came home and you had to explain to your children or your family what happened, you would have said, well, it was a combined no-hitter. Yeah, so it takes the luster off to a degree.
By the way, real quick question. Have you ever seen in person, you and I have covered and attended many hundreds, maybe even thousands of baseball games. You saw a no-hitter?
Never saw a perfect game. Never saw a perfect game. Saw
I
no-hitters.
Never saw a no-no.
Yeah, Let's take a break. But coming up, Jessica Pegula upsets Iga Swiatek.
And what would it mean for Michigan to top Texas on Saturday? I was at a Nolan Ryan one-hitter. Dick Allen swinging bunt in the 9th.
Okay, my son went to the Max Scherzer game where he struck out 20, and he left in the 8th. So he missed 20.
No.
Like he saw 18.
Did what?
He left in the 8th.
He did what?
What? Michael,
I'm going to call Michael during the next break. That's the worst fan decision I've ever heard.
And he loves the Nats.
Nature.
Time to get down and wordy with Wilbon. What's first?
Jessica Pegula's win over Iga Swiatek last night was blank.
My word is unexpected. I certainly didn't expect it, Mike, and I watched the whole thing. I was stunned that Pegula won the first set 6-2 in about 35 minutes, and then I was more stunned that she won the second set 6-4. Swiatek is the #1 seed in the entire tournament, who I think has won maybe 4 majors to this point, but she couldn't keep the ball on the court. She couldn't serve, she couldn't rally. She made 41 unforced errors. So I don't want to rain on Pegula's parade, but it's almost as if Swiatek's inability last night was more important than Pegula's ability. But let me cheer Pegula, because she's never been this far. She had been 0-6 in quarterfinal matches in majors. Now, she lost to great players, but she lost them all. So good for her, and I hope she makes it to the final.
That was so begrudging. So begrudging. You just said, I'm not going to rain on a parade, and you rained on it. And that comes after you started our U.S. Open week previously by saying she goes out early all the time. So Pegula's win over Swiatek was TK silencing. That's what it was. Take that. Chew on that for a while. TK silencing. She said, I heard this. I hear this old dude talking about how I can't get even to the quarters, and now I'm in the semis. What is he talking about?
No, get to the quarters. Gets to the quarters. Now I'm rooting for her to get to the finals. What's next?
Okay, that's fair.
It'll be blank if defending champ Michigan beats Texas in Ann Arbor on Saturday.
It will be overblown. People will start chirping that this means the Big Ten is better than the SEC. They will say, oh, look at Michigan. They lost their coach, Jim Harbaugh. They lost their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. And they just beat a squad that had their coach, Steve Sarkisian, and had their quarterback, Quinn Ewers. And that's what they're going to do. And they're going to say that Texas is overrated, Texas stinks, and the 52-0 win they had in the first week, that doesn't mean anything. And now Michigan is going to be an undefeated champion again. And that's why it's overblown. Because that's like crazy talk at this point. Texas didn't just lose the SEC. This wasn't even a conference game. And Michigan still has to play Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and USC, all ranked, all conference games. So settle down, people. They can both still make the tournament.
All right, they don't have Penn State, but I'm going to go back to their schedule and some tough games. You're right on everything you just said. But every single thing about the college football season is overstated. All day Sunday, all day Monday, all people do on every network, including this one, is overstate everything. So the Michigan win, if they should do that, would be a tease. A tease, Tony, because Michigan has to play at Ohio State, and Ohio State better win that game if they're going to be getting a new coach. They got to play at Washington, and at Washington is sort of like Michigan. I mean, they did something last year they're not going to repeat this year. They got to play Southern Cal and Oregon. They're not winning all 4 of those games. They'd be lucky to win 2 of those games, and if you throw Texas in, they'd have to win at least 3 of them, and it would be a tease to start with just Texas.
I think it would be MW silencing, but I wasn't smart enough to say that early. That's the final word. Let's take, excuse me, one last break. Still to come, an American soccer legend hangs it up.
Ooh. And the Dodgers are about to get some help for the stretch run. They kind of need it. San Diego looks better. Padres look better to me right now.
I am now rooting for Jessica Pegula, and I trust you are too, Wilbon.
Good.
I trust so. But I'm also rooting for Emma Navarro. I'd like to see them both in the final.
I like Navarro, yeah. You can't root for both of them if they play each other. Can't root for both.
That's in the final if they do. That's in the final.
Yeah, if they meet.
Happy time, people. Happy 26th birthday, Mac Jones. Jones led Alabama to the national championship in 2020, then was drafted 15th overall by the New England Patriots. Jones was handed the opportunity to replace Tom Brady after it didn't work out for Cam Newton. Jones had a fine rookie year, completing 67.6% of his passes, throwing 22 touchdown passes, and making the Pro Bowl. His next year wasn't as good, 14 touchdown passes. The year after that was bad. Jones had 10 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, and was benched at times. It felt like time for a change. The Patriots traded Jones to Jacksonville for a 6th-round pick. With Jones and Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars have 2 quarterbacks who have won college championships.
Well, Tony, maybe there's still such a thing as a late bloomer. And maybe Mac Jones will qualify, but the problem with that is teams very seldom now, particularly at that position when it comes to pro football, are willing to sit and let you bloom late. They got to see it now or hit the highway, dude.
I agree with that. Happy anniversary, Jerry Rice. On this day 30 years ago, the 49ers' legendary receiver caught 2 touchdown passes and ran for another score as the 49ers routed the Raiders 44-14. With those touchdowns, Rice surpassed Jim Brown's NFL career touchdown record of 126. Now, if you put Jim Brown and Jerry Rice in the same sentence, you really don't have to say anything else. Since then, 9 players have passed Brown's touchdown mark, but no one is close to Rice. Rice has 208, 33 more than second-place Emmitt Smith. Among active players, Devontae Adams and Mike Evans lead with 97 touchdowns. That's only 27th all-time. Derrick Henry has 93.
Tony, these numbers are instructive. You can sit there and look at them when you figure that Jim Brown, which nobody under 70 knows, played 12 game seasons. Not 14, not 16, not 18 or whatever the NFL is going to, okay? And none of these guys, as great as they are, and there are some great receivers in the NFL today, they ain't Jerry Rice. You guys, you ain't Jerry Rice.
Happy trails, Alex Morgan, the longtime star forward of the U.S. national team, announced her retirement today at the age of 35. Morgan plans to play one last game for the San Diego Wave FC on Sunday before leaving the sport. She said she's expecting her second child. Morgan is best known for a 14-year career with the national team that saw her score 123 international goals, win 2 World Cups, and 1 Olympic gold medal. She was notably left off the roster of this year's gold medal team in Paris.
Look, on this team or not this year, Tony, isn't she in the discussion for the GOAT? I mean, given what she's done, and that period of time in international soccer on that stage and to play in the event she did and to play in the clutch the way she did, she's got to be in that discussion with a very, very short list of others.
We're running out of show when we go to the big finish. The Yankees are moving to a closer by committee. Do you like that?
Yes, that's what they got. They don't have a closer. The trade deadline's over. Committee, yes, get it right. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will return to the mound Tuesday. Is that a big deal?
He was great when he was out there. He was 6-2. Let me get the number here. His ERA was 2.92. They need starters. Yes, it's a big deal. Matt Chapman and the San Francisco Giants agreed to a 6-year, $151 million contract extension. Does that make sense to you?
Probably it would have been more like a $300 million contract if he hit, but that's not his deal. It's all glove, and they figure he's valuable, and the stats, the analytics show that he is. Bill Belichick joined Instagram. You surprised?
Yeah, didn't he used to call it InstaFace and deride it all
Something
the
like
time?
that.
Now he's trying to become relevant again. What is next for him? TikTok with dances with cats? Is that what he's going to do? Last one, the White Sox snapped their 12-game losing streak. Your thoughts, Mr. Chicago?
Look, Tony, they got to go 11-10 to avoid the all-time record for losing. They have time for another 12-game losing streak and will likely get there.
We're out of time. We will try and do better the next time. Matt Kelleher, I understand it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI or Apple Podcast. Who you got, Chiefs or Ravens?
PTI.
Dances with cats.
Season opener.
All right, Wilbon. Bigger addition, Derrick Henry for the Ravens or Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs?
Ooh, Tony, this is difficult. This is a tough one. I mean, Worthy, to be able to get him after you execute a trade for draft purposes with the Bills, you execute that trade and you bring in a guy who allegedly is the fastest player you've ever had, which means he's faster than Tyreek Hill, really? And so they talk about blowing the top off of that offense in the way they did with Tyreek Hill, who's now, of course, gone to Miami. And if that's the case, it opens up all kinds of possibilities for Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense, which last year was not great. I don't think it was because of a lack of a receiver. I think it was because of a signal caller, but I digress. Derrick Henry, Tony, I don't think he has to carry the team. He has to provide one hell of a powerful alternative to Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go Derrick Henry for this 1 year, and I might switch it up later. But I'm going to say Derrick Henry for now. But that depends on the play callers for the Ravens and whether somebody wants to be hard-headed or give an advantage to the personnel he has and not live with his philosophy. Don't want to hear about your philosophy.
I think the distinction you make in terms of time is very important here. Derrick Henry is supposed to come in and win a Super Bowl this year.
Now,
he is supposed to be the missing piece. The receiver's not supposed to do that. They've won 2 in a row. And they won both of those without Tyreek Hill. What interests me about this is that I do think it's apples to oranges to a degree. And we're old enough to understand the second part of this. Both teams are reaching back for someone they once had. Kansas City is reaching back for Tyreek Hill. They think they're a much better team with a fast wideout who can score from anywhere. The Colts are going back to the Colts. I see what I did there.
Yeah,
the Ravens, who used to be the Colts, who had Allen Amici. That's who they're going back to. A power running back. I'm sure they've had others in the last 50 years, but that's what they're going to. They're saying, what are we missing? We're missing the ability to take some pressure off Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry can do that. So I think you're right in the short term. I do think you're right in that. But
hand the ball to Derrick
Henry. We're going to know on this. Is a definitive answer by the end of the year. We're going to know.
Yeah. May not take that long. That's it. We're done. Back to you.